Number 1.
Minister.
I wish to highlight from the outset that my department remains fully committed to pursuing the perpetrators of this environmental crime through ongoing criminal proceedings, including ensuring that the polluter pays through confiscation under the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002. Safeguarding public health, ensuring safe drinking water and reducing the environmental impact of this crime are paramount, and my department will continue delivering its comprehensive environmental monitoring programme at the site. This includes site inspections, regular monitoring of ground and surface water, daily laboratory testing of water quality at the NI Water drinking water abstraction point, and working in partnership with Northern Ireland Water. Detailed water quality monitoring reports are published on the DAERA website, and I am advised that, to date, there has been no adverse impact on the safety of drinking water supplied from the River Fawn. A draft optimum remediation strategy to deliver the long-term remediation of the Maboy site based on the best balance of environmental, social and economic factors has been developed. A detailed risk assessment drawn on extensive site investigations with over 7 years of monitoring has provided a robust evidence basis for a detailed appraisal of many remediation options and subsequently the development of the draft remediation strategy. The draft strategy has been developed in line with best practice and using guidance issued by the Environment Agency that applies to Northern Ireland. The next step in the process is to consult with the public on the draft strategy. It is vitally important we get this right, and I will be ensuring that all interested parties have the opportunity to comment on the draft strategy. There is no agreed preferred option, and there will not be until consultation has been completed and responses carefully considered.
Ms McLaughlin.
Thank you, Minister, and I really appreciate the urgency which you are taking on this issue. Maboy has serious environmental implications, but it has also implications for our economy, and it is holding up progress on the A6. Will the Minister detail how he will work with the Minister of Infrastructure to ensure progress is finally made on this crucial issue, and the delay in one particular issue can't kill progress on the A6 as well?
Minister.
Thank you, Member, for a question. I understand the urgency for this for many reasons in relation to the A6, and it's something I've briefly spoken to the Infrastructure Minister about, and something I continue to engage with him, but for other reasons as well, because this is a site where an environmental crime is alleged to have occurred, and which investigations are ongoing in relation to that, and a justice outcome is being sought, but also in terms of the impact upon the local community. And over the time ahead, I hope to engage with the District Council in relation to this issue, because it's a key issue for the people in the North West.
Nicola Brogan.
Thank you to the Minister as well. Is the Minister or his department aware of or examining any other dumping sites to ensure that a situation like what we've seen in Maboy doesn't develop again?
Minister.
Thank the member for her question. I am aware that there are other sites in Northern Ireland, and the issue of environmental crime, particularly in relation to waste crime, is something I take very seriously, something I've been engaging with colleagues about in terms of how we can better ensure that we practice the principle of the polluter pays and we ensure proper outcomes in relation to this. That means working with the Organised Crime Task Force, it means working with HMRC in relation to this. It also means resourcing in terms of the Northern Ireland Environment Agency around this, and it's something I'm putting a focus upon and engaging with officials over the time ahead, because we need to eliminate waste crime here in Northern Ireland.
Mr Speaker, and thank the Minister so far. He did indicate that there is no preferred option when he publishes the draft strategy, but I'm wondering if he has any estimated costs of those options when the strategy will be published.
Minister.
Thank the member for your question, and it's quite a key issue and it's something that's been concerning me in terms of the cost potentially around this. To date, my department does not have a cost estimate which has been assessed and approved through the required public finance processes and also through an approved business case. There are several reasons for this, and it's important to outline this to the member and to the House. Firstly, my department is continuing to pursue the perpetrators of this environmental crime through ongoing criminal proceedings, and in line with the polluter pays principle, will strenuously seek to ensure that the polluter does pay in this case. Secondly, my department will shortly issue a public consultation on a range of remediation options for the site. The views of stakeholders are hugely important to me, and I want to ensure that those views are taken into account in relation to the remediation options chosen. Hence, I'm not able to confirm stable costings now. Thirdly, there are a range of approval processes which must be carried out to ensure any remediation proposals are both technically sound and also cost effective. In conclusion, I would say that a number of months ago I did visit the site myself, and this issue is enormously complex and it's something that I am very focused upon, and it's important that we get a way forward in relation to this when we start the consultation for the public in the time ahead.
Kate Nicholl.
Thank you. Thank the Minister for his answers so far. Can I ask the Minister what steps are being taken in relation to the safety of drinking water?
Minister.
I thank the member for her question, and the safety of drinking water is something of paramount importance, and I think it's an important question that you've asked. Safeguarding public health, ensuring safe drinking water and reducing the environmental impact of this crime are paramount. My department is committed to protecting the water quality of the river Fawn in partnership with Northern Ireland Water to safeguard drinking water in the North West. My officials have put in place a comprehensive environmental monitoring programme at the Maboy site. This includes site and riverbank inspections, detailed monitoring using international quality standards of on-site groundwater and surface water, together with daily laboratory testing of water quality at the Northern Ireland Water drinking water abstraction point. Northern Ireland Water monitors water abstracted from the River Fawn, water at various stages of treatment, and final water supplied from the Commonly Water Treatment Works. Monitoring data is shared and interpreted by both NEA and also Northern Ireland Water.
Minister, I call Dr. Steve Aiken.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank the member for his question. My department's code of practice for the welfare of dogs recommends that only positive, reward-based training should be used. Further, that potentially painful or frightening training methods, such as e-collars, should be avoided. In this context, I am aware of the merits of banning these devices, and I am keen to explore how this could be achieved within the lifetime of this mandate, subject to available resources. I intend to discuss this and other animal welfare interventions with stakeholders over the time ahead. I am aware that the Irish Government will be introducing a regulation in the coming months. This regulation will ban the use of manually operated shock collar devices, but not anti-bark collars or collars linked to boundary fences. Shock collars have been banned in Wales since 2010, and a recent report from the Scottish Animal Welfare Commission has recommended a ban there. DEFRA had introduced legislation in England to attempt to ban shock collars prior to the dissolution of Parliament. However, it should be noted, while the use of shock or e-collars is not banned in Northern Ireland, a person can only use an e-collar on an animal if it does not cause unnecessary suffering. For example, if a person sets the intensity of the device at a level which is deemed to be excessive, they could be causing that animal unnecessary suffering and liable to prosecution under the Welfare of Animals Act, Northern Ireland, 2011.
Call Steve.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. And first, two things. First of all, may I apologise not for being in my seat for my earlier question for the Minister of Justice. And the second one, as a person who looks after a dog, I wouldn't say I'm a dog owner, I look after a dog, but it's very much my wife's dog. That would be the question I would have to have. Minister, the concern would be how we define the question of unnecessary suffering and how this legislation could or may indeed be enforced if that happens to be the case. Without the definition and definitive act of actually banning this banning the use of these shock collars as soon as possible, how do we get in a situation where we can get away from the confusion of the law? Because most people now are absolutely confused by what is the law and how is it going to be applied.
I thank the member for his supplementary question, and I think there are strong merits in pursuing this ban, and it's something I want to engage with stakeholders over the time ahead. And time ahead, I'm talking about the next weeks and months, so we can get a clear position in terms of what our plan is within this mandate to take forward legislation around this. And the issue you raise is important. I think there's strong justification for it, but I'm also aware there's many other areas in terms of animal welfare legislation we want to pursue. That's why I also want to engage with stakeholders so we can prioritise the interventions we need to take as an Assembly to take every action we can to outlaw animal cruelty here in Northern Ireland.
Phil Brett.
The Minister shares my commitment to ending harm against animals. Can the Minister then outline the support that he's given to local councils across Northern Ireland to ensure that we have enforcement action in place to ensure those who are endangering the welfare of animals have them removed as soon as possible?
Thank the member for his question. I want to first put on the record for the work and my thanks for the work that district councils do in relation to this, and I'm very grateful for that. And we have good partnership working in regards to that. People are aware that the budget settlement my department received at the beginning of this financial year is extremely demanding and stretching, particularly in the context where I bid to continue compensation for bovine TB at 100%, and I received nothing in relation to that bid. So the pressures on my department are absolutely immense as a result of that. But I do want to help councils in relation to the work that they're doing, and I have bid as part of the due monitoring for the funding that they're seeking in relation to this. I'm aware that there's ongoing judicial review proceedings in relation to that, but I'm seeking funding under the due monitoring to see what we can do in relation to that. But I want to go further than that. Rather than only supporting district councils, I want to support the charities that we have here in Northern Ireland, and that's something I'm exploring with officials over the time ahead as the budget allows, how we can support the good work that they do.
Danny Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for his answers so far. Could I just ask the Minister if he sees any merit in an all-Ireland ban on the use of shock collars?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. I do think there is a lot of merit in that, because the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Marine, Charlie McConalogue, announced on the 7th of May 2024 that he would be introducing a regulation in the coming months to ban the use of manually operated, remotely controlled electric shock collars. The proposal by the Minister does not include, as I've outlined, the anti-bark type collars or collars linked to perimeter fencing systems. This and other issues are something that I wish to engage with my colleagues in the South. Whatever we can do together to outlaw and to ban animal cruelty here on the island of Ireland and also across the United Kingdom is something I'm keen to pursue.
Mark Durgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for his answers thus far. Has the Minister spoken with his colleague, the Justice Minister, with regard to a joint approach around the creation and implementation of stiffer penalties and more appropriate punishments for those found guilty of animal cruelty?
Minister.
Thank the member for his question. And the issue in terms of the sentencing framework around animal cruelty offences is something that I have been looking at. I've been looking at the current framework around that. And what I want to do is engage with stakeholders in terms of the priorities for the time ahead, because we can prioritise this, but we also have to look at other areas we want to look at. I'm aware that there is frustration, and I get that in terms of the outcomes, the criminal justice outcomes around this, and that's something we want to explore with stakeholders over the time ahead in terms of the work that we can do to address those concerns.
Linda Dillon.
Corlia, and thank the Minister for his answer so far. Kesh Evertree, question number 3.
Minister.
The Water Northern Ireland Order 1999 serves as a pivotal legislative framework for Northern Ireland, governing the protection of the aquatic environment. The order also provides powers to take enforcement action against uncontrolled discharges, which are a risk of pollution to the aquatic environment. A person guilty of an offence under Article 7 of this order is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 months, or to a fine not exceeding £20,000, or to both. Whilst the Northern Ireland Environment Agency proactively regulates and enforces current regulations to protect our environment, I recognise we need to do more. That is why I have allocated resources from within my own departmental budget to strengthen regulation and enforcement, particularly in relation to water quality. This will enable the establishment of an enforcement team dedicated to tackling the problems of Lough Neagh and its catchment, together with a commitment to see radical changes to the regulatory approach currently set out in the Statement of Regulatory Principles and Intent, otherwise known as SORPI, relating to NI water discharges. Enforcement action is taken against non-compliance. In line with DAERA's enforcement policy, the Northern Ireland Environment Agency undertake a range of enforcement actions, from warning letters, issue of statutory notices and also prosecutions.
Ms. Dillon.
And thank the Minister for his answer. Minister, I'm sure you will be well aware, and I know you are because you were speaking on it, about the recent fish kills. And I think some of the concerns that people have around these issues are either do NIA take it seriously, or do they have the resource to be able to actually do something about it? And I've had many complaints where it has maybe been 2 days after a report of a fish kill before somebody comes out to look at it, and I don't think that that's good for anybody. So I'm just wondering, can you confirm then that you're content they have the powers, they perhaps just don't have the resources?
Minister.
Thank the member for a question, and it's a number of matters you have touched upon. Does Northern Ireland Environment Agency have the resources they need? No, they don't, but what I'm doing is I'm reprioritising within my department to give them what I can, and I'll be bidding in terms of future budgets for future years to see if we can further increase the resources within the Northern Ireland Environment Agency, because it's important that we have those resources so that they can respond to those incidents promptly. And it's really, really important I send a message today. If anyone's aware of any water pollution incidents, that they report it very, very promptly to the pollution hotline to enable a response in relation to that. So I've established that enforcement team in the Lough Neagh catchment area as a first step in terms of taking action around this. But I also want to take further measures, one of them which is in terms of review of the sentencing framework around environmental crime. That's something I'm quite keen to do in conjunction with the Justice Minister, and it's absolutely fundamental we do that. And also we review the regulation around this issue. So it's something I'm putting a lot of effort in. The situation in terms of the fish kills that have been reported in recent days are something that really angers me, because this is something that's really damaged our environment, and it's something we need to address, and we need to ensure that we're taking action to prevent this ever occurring again.
Matthew Till.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister, the Spotlight programme in the last week has highlighted what we all knew, but is much worse than we thought. Lough Neagh, indeed large parts of our environment, have become a wild west in terms of ecocide and environmental crime. Do you believe that this makes the case for speeding up the creation of an independent environment agency, and will you be bringing forward those plans to the Executive forthwith?
Thank the member for his question. As the member will be aware, because his previous colleague held the Environment Ministry in terms of the issues around establishing an environmental protection agency, and that's something that I'm taking up in terms of environmental governance review. I intend to be making announcements over the time ahead in relation to next steps around this. It's important we follow due process and we ensure that we're taking the road ahead in terms of establishing an independent environmental protection agency, because it's something I believe in, something within New Decade, New Approach, that we establish it correctly, it has the correct powers, and it has the ability to deliver for the people of Northern Ireland. So it's something I'm moving at pace, because I think it's important that we have an independent environmental protection agency. I have a lot of respect for the officials within the Northern Ireland Environment Agency, but ultimately I don't believe it should be part of my department. It should be independent, and we're taking action in relation to this. And I look forward to engaging with members and society on this issue over the time ahead, because I recognise the importance of it.
John Blair.
Mr. Speaker, and I welcome that answer from the Minister on the movement towards an independent environmental protection agency. Can I ask the Minister then, as that process takes place, if he will continue to engage with stakeholders in and around the Lough Neagh catchment area and include them in all policy discussions?
Thank the member for his question, and I will do that, and I am doing that, because I think it's very important that there is stakeholder engagement around these issues. I'm aware of what was reported in the Spotlight programme a few weeks ago. This was extremely difficult and concerning viewing, not just for me, but I would say for the people of Northern Ireland, and I've been acting in relation to what was reported within that. As part of that, the Northern Ireland Environment Agency is now reviewing its protocols in terms of how it works with Northern Ireland Water in terms of enforcement of trade discharge consent breaches. We're also giving consideration to how do we monitor and also respond to cases of lower risk, but importantly, cumulative trade discharge consent breaches, because it's very important that we consider when there's cumulative breaches in relation to this. We're also doing work in terms of environmental governance, as I've outlined, in terms of the case for an independent environmental protection agency. And also I will be engaging with Muir Park, outlining my severe concern in relation to the pattern of cumulative breaches and seeking plans on how they swiftly intend to rectify these issues.
Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his answers so far. Everybody knows in here that it is concerning in terms of the information that's come out from Spotlight. We all get that. But when you see the likes of big companies and you see the likes of Northern Ireland Water essentially getting away with the fact that rivers are being polluted, not just, I suppose, in Lough Neagh, this could be happening elsewhere in Northern Ireland. How realistic do you think it is going to be, and when will you start to see enforcement actually happening on this issue, because this is vitally important?
Minister.
I thank the member for a question. It's important that enforcement action we take around environmental crime, and particularly in relation to water pollution, is fair and balanced. And I'm very aware of the concerns in relation to Northern Ireland Water and the arrangements in place known as SORPI between Northern Ireland Environment Agency and Northern Ireland Water. I made it clear in the documentary we need to call time on SORPI. I want to engage with the Minister for Infrastructure in relation to this issue, and I've been engaging with my officials on that, because the situation where Northern Ireland Water get essentially a bye ball for their pollution of our waterways needs to end.
Hunter.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I would like to answer questions 4 and 9 together. As announced in March 2022, the new farm sustainability payment, which is planned to replace the basic payment scheme, will provide a balance between providing a safety net that will help a farm business withstand shocks that are beyond its ability to manage effectively, and also encouraging farm businesses to be sustainable, efficient, competitive and able to manage risk proactively. A public consultation on the policy proposal to increase the minimum claim size to 10 hectares took place in December 2021. The proposal in the consultation to increase the threshold to 10 generated a significant degree of stakeholder concern. Based on the consultation responses, the decision was announced in March 2022 that the minimum claim size would increase to 5 hectares. I am not currently planning to reverse the decision to increase the minimum claim size, and work is progressing to ensure that the secondary legislation requirements will be in place by the autumn. Based on the 2023 Basic Payment Scheme application data, the number of farm businesses that may be impacted by the move to 5 hectares of eligible land for the Farm Sustainability Payment Transition Payment and Farm Sustainability Payment is around 1,400. All land managers with 3 hectares or more of eligible land who meet the scheme requirements will be able to participate in the Farming with Nature package when it comes on stream.
Ms. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You touched there, Minister, about the consultation that you had. Can you give us a wee bit more detail on the work of your department on assessing the impact that this change would have on farmers? And will the Minister restore the previous minimum claim size of 3 hectares for farmers to access the payments?
Minister.
Thank the member for her question. There has been significant stakeholder engagement and consultation around this, and that's primarily through the Agriculture Policy Stakeholder Group. I'm aware of the figures in relation to the impact around this, but what I'm also trying to do is balance in terms of future farm support policy here in Northern Ireland. I do get some of the concerns in relation to support for horticulture, and it's something I'm further exploring with officials.
Thank the Minister for his response. Minister, there was families in my parents' generation and before that were reared in 1 acre, and you will be aware it's a unanimous view of the ERA committee to revert back to 3 hectares. So I just want you to consider that this will potentially knock 1,400 small farm businesses out of business, with a knock-on impact for rural planning and vibrancy. I just want to ask you, will this come in by affirmative procedure, and will you reconsider your decision?
I thank the member for his question. He outlines very clearly the case for 3 hectares in relation to this. What I'm happy to do is, in terms of my commitment to attend the committee, we commence on the 8th of July, is for this to be added onto the agenda, and we're going to have a further discussion around this, because I think most people know me that I want to engage with people and find a way forward in terms of the future farm support development programme where we all can buy in relation to this.
Tim Allister.
Minister, explain to these small farmers why he and his department are against them, because the inevitable consequence of this step is to financially drive these small farms out of business. Why does he want that?
Minister.
My department and myself are not against anyone, but what we're trying to do is find a balanced way forward, and the person in the chair will be aware of the issues that we're discussing in relation to this, and it's something I'm happy to further consider at the committee over the time ahead.
Nick Malthus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his answers. Can the Minister confirm in a bit more detail what support is available to those farms impacted by the increase from 3 hectares to 5?
Thank the member for his question, and as outlined in the response, there is a Farming with Nature package which is a key intervention around this, and I'm keen to engage and see what support we can provide to specific sectors, particularly around horticulture.
Tom Buchanan.
Mr Speaker, can the Minister advise what assessment he has done to determine the detrimental impact such a move may have on small farmer holdings who, despite being small in size, still produce quality meat to the food chain, which in turn provides an income for that small farm holding?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. In relation to the amount of businesses that are affected by this, this is something I've already outlined to the committee, and my officials have engaged around that. The amount of businesses affected, I know that's relatively small, but I understand the case that's been made within this chamber, and I'm happy to engage in the committee on this issue so we can find a way forward.
Alan Robinson.
Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Littering is a blight on our precious environment, and I'm strongly committed to and actively working towards reducing the number of littering offences throughout Northern Ireland, using a combined approach of legislation, education and enforcement. I'm aware of the continuing problem of litter, especially in the marine environment, and I'm conscious of the impacts of this along the beautiful beaches of the North Coast and our whole coastline. My department continues to work with our stakeholders such as Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful, Northern Ireland Water, the National Trust, the Causeway Coast and Glens Council to reduce the volume of litter entering our marine environment. In addition, legislation was introduced in December 2022 to increase the maximum fixed penalty notice that councils can set for littering offences from £80 to £200 to act as a stronger deterrent to littering. My department has also provided funding to a number of projects specifically aimed at tackling the problem of marine litter through the Marine Litter Capital Grant Scheme, which improves environmental management of local public areas by reducing marine litter. The draft Environmental Improvement Plan, which is subject to executive approval, includes a commitment to publish the first litter strategy for Northern Ireland, which includes strategies for tackling marine litter.
Mr Robinson.
Thank you, Minister, for your answer. Minister, what further message can this House send to those who come to our beaches and who think that it is okay to use it as an outdoor bin and therefore expect everyone else to clean up thereafter?
I think we have to send a united message from this House that it is wrong, and it's important to understand that there's penalties associated with that, and it's something I'm keen to work in conjunction with district councils to see what more we can do in relation to that. My department provides significant support, for example, to Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful, to tackle the scourge of littering at source. In the current financial year, Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful has been awarded funding of £816,000 through the Environment Fund. There's much we can do with our community, with our district councils, as MLAs ourselves, to stamp out this problem.
Philip McGuigan.
Minister will be aware that a massive EU study years ago eventually led to the introduction of what became known as the Single-Use Plastics Directives, a piece of legislation that was supposed to be transposed here a couple of years ago. Can I ask the Minister when we will get a ban on single-use plastics here so that the beaches in the North Coast and our environment as a whole will get protected from?
Minister.
For his question, that's something I'm working with officials and want to progress over the time ahead because I think it's important we use those legislative tools to address the issues that have been discussed in this chamber.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and thank you, Minister. Can you please outline what funding has been provided through the Marine Litter Capital Grant Scheme to tackle this issue? Thank you.
My departments provide funding of approximately £622,000 to 67 projects across Northern Ireland over the lifetime of this scheme. The Marine Litter Capital Grant Scheme was launched for 3 years in 2021-22, with the third and final year of funding ending in March 2024. The aim of the scheme was to address and tackle the problem of litter entering our marine environments, causing harm to both marine biodiversity and the health and well-being of our communities. It also helped improve environmental management of local public areas to reduce marine litter.
Stuart Dixon.
While there are no quick fixes for the problems at Lough Neagh, I am pleased to provide an update on the actions my department has taken to tackle them. DAERA has led on the development of a report containing evidence-based actions to tackle the blue-green algae blooms in the loch and secure longer-term improvements in water quality across Northern Ireland. However, approval by the Executive of the draft Environmental Improvement Plan is key to taking a strategic approach to the issues facing Lough Neagh in the context of the wider catchment area. I will continue to engage with Executive colleagues to seek their approval for the draft EIP and also the Lough Neagh report. My department has also led on the soon-to-be-launched Small Business Research Initiative to explore potential solutions to treat and reduce blue-green algae blooms without impacting the natural environment of Lough Neagh and associated Northern Ireland waterways, and on the development of an interagency monitoring protocol to support the response to blue-green algae issues this year. The protocol has been published on DAERA's website and provides guidance as to how the water users should consider blue-green algae risks, as well as detailing the Department's monitoring response. I am also pleased to confirm that action on the ground is ready to commence. For example, my department through CAFRE has already delivered nutrient management programmes for farmers and land managers targeted on Lough Neagh catchment areas. The Lough Neagh Report and Action Plan is a key report and it does need executive approval. But there is many actions I am taking and I have outlined that to the Chamber. Key to that is the Future Farm Support Development Programme. This is a new way forward focused upon improved and sustainable productivity with environmental sustainability, building resilience, food security and effective functioning supply chains as the key parts of that. And farming with nature is a key component around that. There's many issues that we're doing. I'm also commissioning an independent scientific review of the impact of sand extraction upon Lough Neagh. I'm putting more resources and more regulation to the Lough Neagh catchment area, and I'm also scoping the expansion of the Sustainable Catchment Programme.
Time is up for questions to the Minister. Now move to topical questions, and I call Patsy Madlone.
Thank you. Minister, could you give us an update, please? You referred to it earlier there, an update on the Lough Neagh Action Plan as presented to the Executive on Thursday, please.
Thank the member for his question. I have the report here. It's ready to go. There's many actions my department's taken, and I've outlined some of those to Stuart Dixon. We have our Farm Support and Development Programme, a significant programme about turning around our farms towards an environmentally sustainable way forward, and it's been very, very well received, and I'm looking forward to continuing to deliver that. There's communications underway and planned around the area. The Soil Nutrient Health Scheme, training is planned with slurry contractors, the Small Business Research Initiative in terms of the utilisation of livestock slurry, independent scientific review of sand extraction, more resources for regulation and enforcement, and also scoping the expansion of the Sustainable Catchment Programme. And there's lots more. My department is getting cracking and moving on this, but I need executive approval for the significant elements which are cross-cutting or new, such as, for example, establishing a model similar to the Forever Mourns partnership using the Innovation Lab, scoping a conservation management plan, investing in wastewater infrastructure, investing in a science platform, a grant programme to support organisations working to support better water quality in the Lough Neagh area, a sentencing framework review in terms of fines and penalties of environmental crime, action on septic tanks. This executive will be judged on one thing, it's delivery. That's what I want to do.
Mr Madlone.
Thanks, Minister. Could you give us an indication then, please, Minister, as to what the obstacles were to that action plan moving from the Executive on Thursday?
So I received some feedback in relation to the report, and I'm engaging with stakeholders on Wednesday. So I'm engaging with Lough Neagh Partnership, I'm also engaging with Northern Ireland Environment Link, the EFU and NIAPA, and I'm looking forward to that engagement so we can get the report finalised by the end of this week, and hopefully the Executive next week we can get it agreed and we can give people in Northern Ireland hope. Hope that the scenes of last year, whilst we're aware that there is already blue-green algae blooms occurring in Lough Neagh, but hope that we're going to chart a course to turn this situation around. And I'm confident that we can do that, because together we can achieve so much more for the people of Northern Ireland. And let's get the report agreed, let's get the environmental improvement plan agreed, and let's actually show delivery, positive change for people in Northern Ireland.
Donny Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for his answers so far. In recent weeks, thousands of fish have been killed in rivers across Northern Ireland. So I'd like to ask the Minister just for an update on the recent fish kill at the River Row that happened just a few days ago.
Thank the member for his question. The Lochs Agency was informed of a fish kill on a tributary of the River Row near Burnfoot in Dungiven on the 14th of June and confirmed it as significant on the 15th of June. Lochs Agency is leading the investigation and have powers of investigation and enforcement under the Foyle Fisheries Act. The Northern Ireland Environment Agency will assist in the investigation as required.
Mr Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And just to follow up, just to ask the Minister if he's also aware of yet another pollution incident at the Lough River.
The pollution incidents that the members outlining are really concerning for me, and there's too many of them. and to have fish kills occurring days after each other is a real matter of concern, and that's why we need to take action in relation to this, and that's why it's important we get these plans agreed and we can turn the situation around. In relation to the Lough River, unfortunately I'm detailing to the House another water pollution incident. On Friday the 31st of May 2024, Northern Ireland Environment Agency received a water pollution report indicating that there was an odorous grey coloured material present in the Lough River in the Montgomery Road, Ladders Road area of Belfast. The Northern Ireland Environment Agency immediately deployed a water quality inspector to the area to confirm the report and assess the environmental impact. The water pollution was confirmed by the NEA inspector, and an investigation under the Water Order 1999 was initiated to attempt to identify the source. The area involved is largely an urbanised and industrial one, and the covered nature of the waterways and the sewage system in the area can make investigation more difficult. A number of samples were collected last week that allowed NEA inspectors to follow a definite line of inquiry regarding the source of the ongoing pollution. The company involved are investigating internally as a matter of urgency and dye testing and systematically closing down their production lines to attempt to identify the source of pollution that is being discharged to the Lough River. NEA inspectors are continuing to work with the company involved and will do so until the discharge is identified and stopped. NEA treat all aspects of live investigations as they are as sub judice whilst they remain ongoing, and I cannot provide further details at this time.
I call Jim Allister.
The Donaldson deal promised the establishment of an independent monitoring panel, in its words, to uphold the economic rights of the people of Northern Ireland and protect Northern Ireland's place in the Union. Today, Minister, in a written answer, you advised that you're unaware of the independent monitoring panel ever having been established. All these months on then, how does your department interact on these issues with the department, given the absence of this promised panel?
In terms of the member's question, I did previously write to the UK Government asking for an update in relation to that, and it is correct that the independent monitoring panel has not been established. But I don't need panels to engage with the UK Government. Something I do very regularly, and before we were in the period of election, I was doing almost daily. I have meetings every month with UK Government ministers, because I come to this job not going searching for problems. I go looking for solutions, and that's what my entire focus within this department is. Because I said at my first question time, and I'll say it here today, my ultimate aim in this ministry is to make the whole issue of EU exit extremely boring. And when other people go looking for problems, I go looking for solutions to deliver for the people of Northern Ireland, because they're tired of this. They're tired of people rehashing all arguments. What they want is people focused on delivery for the citizens of Northern Ireland. We just talked about Lough Neagh. We want to deliver on that. And if people want to rehash all arguments in terms of EU exit, that's up to them. I'm focused on solutions, and I'm doing good work in terms of veterinary medicines and other issues, because that's what I want to do as Minister.
Mr Allister.
Given, Minister, that your powers and controls over the Irish border have been removed from you, how are you accountable to this House for the functions exercised by your department over which apparently you have been denied access and control? What sort of democratic accountability is that?
Minister.
So I'm accountable to this House under matters which are under my direction and control, and I'm happy to answer any questions within this question time. What is the ultimate denial of democratic accountability? It was 2 years. 2 years where this Assembly didn't sit. We couldn't debate the issues we're debating today. We couldn't debate the state of our health service. We couldn't debate the situation in relation to education, nor even worse, could we do anything about it? And I think it's important that these institutions are back. We may have differences of views. We may debate things. We have way more powers than we had back from before February. And that's what I'm focused upon, is delivering with my executive colleagues on these issues. Because politics is about the art of the possible, not about blocking and stopping things.
Kate Nicholl.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, one of the issues that I'm raised, that constituents raise with me most often, is the issue of animal welfare. Are you able to update me on your planned approach for tackling this important issue?
I thank the member for a question. It is an important issue, and I'm very conscious of the challenges that I have within this department. But I'm not going to focus upon those. I'm going to focus on what I want to do around this. And there's a significant range of policy and legislation that I want to take forward. But I want to take a new approach to animal welfare and support, and I set this out here today. I want to engage with stakeholders around this through a process of co-design, so together we can agree a way forward in relation to this. We've fallen behind here in Northern Ireland around the protections against animal cruelty. And whilst within this first year we're taking action in terms of the pet abduction bill, also in terms of taking forward Lucy's Law and further other measures, there's a lot more we need to do. So I'm going to engage in that process with stakeholders as we shape a new way forward to improve protection against animal cruelty. And nothing is off the table. Everything is for discussion, including a register of animal cruelty offenders. And that's something I want to consider, including the issue we talked about in terms of penalties. And that's something I'm very, very keen to explore, because I want to sit in the room, I want to work with stakeholders, we can prioritise the way ahead, because what we want to do is work with people, and we want to get the strongest protections against animal cruelty here in Northern Ireland.
Ms Nicholl.
Thank you, Minister, and it's really heartening to hear your plans for addressing this. Can I ask then what additional legislation or resources will be needed in order to carry out this work?
So in a short mandate, we have two main challenges. One is in terms of the time for legislation, and that's why we will be looking at secondary legislation, because obviously that's something we can progress a bit quicker. We also will look at primary legislation in terms of bill. We'll also look at LCMs. I'm not precious, folks. Whatever we can do to protect against animal cruelty, I'm going to do it. I'll work with anyone, north, south, east, west. We'll also look at policy, that way we can do this. The main issue for me is around budget and the resources we can get. And I get the concerns in terms of district councils, in terms of the funding. That's why I'm bidding as part of due monitoring. I'm also getting the concerns from animal welfare charities and the pressure under. And that's what we'll be looking in terms of monitoring around and budget bids in terms of how we can support this. But I'm going to use every opportunity available to take forward actions in relation to this. But most importantly, I want to work with stakeholders, because there's a long list of what needs done, because this place hasn't sat for many years, and I want to work with them so we can together prioritise what we want to do over the time ahead.
David Honeyford.
Mr Speaker, in my old council area last week, we unfortunately witnessed yet again an all-familiar occurrence on the Lough Neagh River, with thick brown waste being emptied into the river, causing devastation to the environment and causing a massive fish kill. Can the Minister give us an update of what actions have been taken by his department?
Minister.
The Northern Ireland Environment Agency received a report of pollution affecting several miles of the Lough Neagh River, County Antrim, at 7:20 on Wednesday night last week. 2 water quality inspectors were immediately deployed to the area, where they confirmed a fish kill and began an investigation. Inspectors returned to the site on Thursday to continue the investigation, which is currently ongoing, and I met the staff there. DAERA inland fishery staff completed an assessment of the extent of the Lough Neagh fish kill on the 13th of June. The fish kill assessment confirmed a major fish kill along a 4-kilometre stretch of the Lough Neagh River. A total of 522 brown trout of various age classes and 1 European eel were confirmed to have been killed. If there's any motivator to take action in relation to water pollution, this is it.
David Honeyford.
I thank the Minister for his answer, and I appreciate that he quickly went to the scene to witness himself and the passion he spoke about it. But can I ask the Minister, would he agree to meet and listen directly to the local Conservation Anglican Club there, who have done a great job in recent years to try and manage this section of river?
Thank the member for his supplementary question. And I am quite passionate about this. People probably guess that, because I was meeting with the anglers back last week, and I was told of a story where children as young as 5 were witnessing the death of the fish as a result of the fish kill, gasping for air, and the children had to be brought inside the youth group as a result of that. And the issue is that we have an opportunity here in Northern Ireland to chart a different direction in relation to water quality, and I hope that we're able to do that over the time ahead. My department is leading in relation to many actions, as I've outlined to the Chamber today. I gave a commitment at the time when I was down there to meet up with the local angling group, and I will give it to you today that I will meet up with them over the weeks ahead so we can work together to restore fish stocks in the river, because it's important we do that.
On Chambers.
If he has given any consideration to amending the animal welfare legislation to remove the exemption of unnecessary suffering in relation to hunting with dogs.
Minister.
Thank the member for his question, and as I said, we're going to enter into a process of co-design with the animal welfare organisations over the time ahead, and I'm very keen to discuss all of that. What I'm also aware is my colleague sitting beside me, John Blair, has done excellent work in relation to this issue in terms of a private member's bill, and hope he's able to bring it back, and hope that people in this chamber are able to support it, because it's a long time that we outlawed this barbaric practice here in Northern Ireland. And whether it's by John or by me, I will be taking action in relation to this, because Northern Ireland should be ashamed of what's been happening in our past here around this issue.
Mr. Chambers.
I agree that if Section 53(1) of the current legislation was removed, it would actually avoid the need for the creation of a new piece of legislation.
I'm happy to consider that issue, but also happy to see what the views of other parties are in relation to this, because whilst many people here talk about their commitments towards animal welfare, when the people were voting in relation to this bill at the last mandate, it didn't match it.
Stuart Dixon.
Minister, could you outline to the House what your environmental improvement plan entails?
Less than a minute, Minister.
Thank you very much. The Environmental Improvement Plan has 6 strategic environmental outcomes, and I'll write to the member to outline those. On the 24th of March 2022, Minister Edwin Poots MLA gave his approval to the Environmental Improvement Plan and wrote to executive colleagues. He made a statement to the Assembly. It was the last sitting of this Assembly. It was on Thursday the 24th of March. And the Minister outlined, our environment affects every aspect of our existence. It is central to all of our life, and what we do, what we eat, how we work and where we live and play is unquestionably our most precious asset. He commended it to the Assembly. I commend it to the Executive.
That brings to a conclusion questions to the Minister. Doug Biddy has given notice of an urgent oral question.